Wow, you all look beautiful today. Thank you for joining us here at MoAD. So today's event, which you are all here for, Beauty Plus, is going to be a very dynamic engagement. So expect an intimate panel conversation, a Q&A, and of course the makeup consultations. There are also some amazing Beauty Plus merch items for sale in the store downstairs if you all are interested. But I'd like to take a moment to thank some of the donors for today's event: CREDO Beauty, e.l.f, Good Weather Skin, Pattern, Rare Beauty, and Sweet July Skin. Now let me introduce our panelists. So Cornelia Stokes is in an inaugural joint position as the Assistant Curator of the Art of the African Diaspora with both the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art and with us here at MoAD. Jasmine Ross is a multimedia artist based in Oakland, California, and a recent grad of Yale College, where she earned her BA in ethics, politics, economics, and art. Her fine arts documentary photography explores themes of identity, politics, intergenerational memory, fictive kinship, reflecting her personal perspective as a biracial Black woman. Working primarily with large format cameras, Ross embraces the slow, deliberate nature of analog image making. Her practice grounds itself in honoring community builders and ensuring their contributions are acknowledged within their lifetimes. Senior manager of retailer.com at e.l.f. Cosmetics, Oakland native Jamaya Moore is a digital and merchandising leader who has created consumer-first experiences across retail commerce platforms. For the past 8 years, Jamaya has worked at e.l.f. Beauty, where she's established the retailer.com department through marketing and site merchandising for 4 e.l.f. Beauty brands at 10 plus retailers and counting. And Annie Jackson, CEO and co-founder of CREDO Beauty, is a beauty industry veteran who has played a key role in the success of some of the world's most influential beauty companies. So she's been instrumental in shaping the clean beauty movement and advancing more transparent, health-conscious standards across the industry. And lastly, we have Franchesca Hashim, co-founder and CEO of Good Weather Skin, who spent her career at brands that refused to accept the status quo, scaling Airbnb during its peak growth years, then leading marketing at Everlane and Masterclass. So please join me in welcoming our panelists.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, ladies.
Hey.
How are y'all today? Good? Okay, good. I'm good too. We are here to talk about beauty. Jasmine Ross has this beautiful exhibition, Beauty Plus, that we are sitting in. It's if you haven't had the time to spend time in here, I would recommend. It's up for another week or so, so come back, or if you have time today, just hang around. I'm sure Jasmine would love to speak to you all, or give a little tidbit about anything that you have questions on after our panel today. Okay, so I wanted to give an opportunity to each of you to just tell us what brings you into the space today. I know we're here to support Jasmine, and we'll get into the work, but we read your lovely bios, but I want to kind of know what's your connection to beauty outside of your professional engagement. I'll start with Jamaya, sorry.
No, you're good. I would say my first instinct of beauty was my mother, like probably a lot of people in this room, right? My sister and I grew up dancing, so we always wore makeup right on stage. But my mom made it very important to us to say, you cannot wear makeup until you know you're beautiful without it. So that was my first instincts of beauty and in the industry. So stage makeup and my mom making sure that I was beautiful without it. And then, of course, now working in the beauty industry. I've been working with e.l.f. Beauty for 8 years. And before that, I was working with Walmart.com, still here in the Bay Area.
Hello, everyone. I am Franchesca. I would say that I grew up in the hair salon. So my stepmother owned a hair salon, and back in my day, there was no things as like babysitters and all of the other things that we have now that I actually indulge in for my own children. And so I sat in the hair salon for 10 hours a day, quite frequently on the weekends. And that's where I learned, one, the photo over there on the wall with all of the different hair clippings of the magazines, when you talk about Black hairstyles and the styling of hair and the community and kinship that is built within hair salons, it was more than just I'm going to make you look good when you walk out, but you're going to feel good, you're going to step inside yourself, and you're going to have a sense of community and kinship. That was then echoed in my own family line. My maternal grandmother is one of 10 girls in her family. And so women are all around me and they surround myself. And I have the type of grandmothers, like, I cannot believe you left the house with your nails unpainted. I cannot hold your hands like this, they're chipped. I came from that family line. And so I think that the interest of beauty, but more so beauty in confidence and beauty in kinship, in community, was surrounding me. And I now co-founded Good Weather Skin, which is a sunscreen line.
Which just launched at CREDO, and she's kicking ass. Thank you for having me. It's really nice to see all of you guys. That was a great segue. Thank you, because my journey is exactly the opposite. I was raised by a couple of hippies. My mom never wore a stick of makeup, and neither did I. And so I was a high school dropout, needing to pay rent, and I had a job opportunity, I guess if you want to call it that, at a porta potty company, and luckily got a phone call at the 11th hour, because pre-internet, guys. I was walking out the door, and I picked up the phone, and this job was like 5 miles closer, and I was going to save gas. So I didn't even know what I was going to. So I borrowed a pair of kitten heels from my mom, put on a skirt, and went to this job interview, and I opened the door, and it's this 22 by 28 poster of Paulina Porizkova on this Greek terrace, and it said Estee Lauder, and I thought, oh my God, where am I? And that's where I started at 19. I'm 54 now, so it's been a while, but safe to say I love the beauty industry. I love beauty products, and I love the emotional side, just like these lovely ladies were saying, of beauty, how it really instills confidence and optimism and hope. And I love creating CREDO, which kind of taps into people's intellectual side of being empowered with information. 97% of the brands at CREDO are run and are founded by women, which is awesome. And it's been an incredibly empowering journey, so I'm excited to talk to you guys about it today. One of the brands that we created of our own is EXA, a 43 shade line of foundation that we started about 6 years ago. We're going to talk more about that today. So thanks for having me.
Jasmine?
You'd like me to share my experience with beauty?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've always kind of been attracted to things in the beauty industry and also in fashion. I had my first internship with Sherry McMullen, who is the CEO and founder of McMullen Boutique, and I feel like fashion and beauty are both ways that I try to express myself. I feel like I really started to find more of my identity in Mel's beauty supply store, actually. I had gone there all 4 years of college, and she was around for 31 years with her own beauty supply store, and being a Black woman-owned business in an industry that's not largely dominated by Black women, I think was something that I really wanted to commemorate, because I wouldn't just go there for my hair care needs, but I also would go there for photography props. And I feel like she wasn't just a place where I felt like I started to shape and share my identity as a woman of color, but also my identity as a photographer, and where I felt like I could explore myself through, she was beauty. Her slogan was that we're beauty plus and so much more. And so I would go there for elaborate church hats and bobby pins to make bobby pin crowns. And I feel like that's kind of what drew me to wanting to photograph her legacy. And also, I hadn't really gotten my hair braided before going to Yale. And I feel like that's a big place where I started to find my identity within the hair space, was at Beauty Plus. So
Thank you. Okay, so if you are unfamiliar, the exhibition surrounds documenting the end of a 31-year-old beauty supply store that was started by a Black woman in New Haven, Connecticut. So thinking about entrepreneurship and minority businesses and beauty, and how all those things have started, 31 years ago, but have transformed into many other things today. So Jasmine, I want to kind of think about or start unpacking the beginning of your documentation and where you started, and what did you learn in those beginning moments that you realized that needed to be actualized, throughout the project and in what we see here today?
Yeah, definitely. So if everyone will kind of turn around for a moment, if you can see the black and white image on the right of the room, I guess from where you guys are sitting, the right of the room. I took that diptych, those 2 shots, months before I actually knew Mel, and months before she knew her store was going to close. Even though I had gone there all 4 years of college, I didn't really know the owners on a very intimate level. And so I snapped those 2 photos and scurried away out of fear that she was going to disapprove, because I didn't ask for her consent, which is very much against my photography practice that is rooted in collaborative image making and consent. And so it wasn't until about 3 months later that when my friend told me that they were closing that I returned, and I gave her one of the prints that I had taken of her and developed it in the darkroom, and just thanked her for being such a community builder, because she actually was also a part of the first Black-owned beauty store in New Haven, Connecticut for 24 years before starting her own shop, and just thanked her for being a place where I felt like I could experiment and explore my identity and feel seen. And so after that moment, I gave her the print, and she thanked me for capturing the store as it once was, because when I returned, it had already started to empty out of the things that culminated in her life's work. And so after that moment, I went back for about 2.5 months, going 5 to 10 hours a week, to really document the final days and the final chapter of Beauty Plus.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that, because I think that without your interference, we would have never known, right?
Yeah.
And I think we need to honor and recognize those persons who came and built those type of legacies, right? Because 31 years in one store and 20, you said 24 in the other one.
Mm-hmm.
So what, 55 years in the beauty industry, working, hand to hand with regular people is inspiring. Okay, so tell us why you think that it's important for us to know these brands that you brought on our panel.
Yeah, I feel like they all have roots in the Bay Area, and so I feel like making sure that we're supporting local owned businesses and businesses that I feel like are really trying to change the market in terms of how they're thinking about beauty in an inclusive way is something that's really important to me. I am a light-skinned woman of color, and so there are things that don't necessarily impact me in terms of like shade matching. It's very easy for me to find my shade, but I feel like it's still very important to make sure that everyone has access to feel seen and to shape their identity and to feel valued, period, and also within the beauty market. So I think that's why I wanted these brands to be here, because I feel like they're doing things that are really amazing and shaping and reimagining how we see beauty today.
Thank you. Franchesca, I want to see if we can expound that a little bit more about your business and you founding something, filling a need. What's that like, and what's your goal?
Yeah. So I'll just start by saying I had never imagined that I would start a sunscreen company. That wasn't like a childhood dream that I grew up trying to carry and launching this brand. When I had my twin girls, thank you for the nudge in the back to speak up. When I had my twin girls now 8 years ago, I became very much aware that when you're pregnant and you have a baby, you spend a ton of time thinking about oh, what's going in my body? What's going in their body? What am I putting on their skin? And I was just much more ingredient aware in a way that I hadn't been. And when you start digging into ingredients, particular beauty products that are service to Black women here in the States, it is atrocious in the ingredients that they will put into things that are meant to make you look better, make you feel better, when there is some inherent harm in those ingredients. We're talking about chemical hair straighteners, some of the products, even now synthetic hairs that they're releasing. You know, you've heard the news and the headlines, and I was like, oh my God, like, where do I go for clean? There's CREDO, right? Where you shop for clean. But when it came particularly to sunscreen, when I was changing my routine, I was able to change a lot of my skincare. You can get better makeup options. You can get a lot. But when it came to sunscreen, in particular wanting a mineral-based sunscreen, it was really challenging to find one that did not leave a cast. And when I say challenging, it was just flat out hard. It was like you can go to the expensive chain, you can go to the grocery market, whatever it was really hard to find one that was satisfactory. And that just made me upset. So it made me have enough fuel to say, can I create something better where all women can experience something that feels indulgent and pleasurable, even if that means that it's just the sunscreen that you're putting on as your final step. So my co-founder and I launched it. She's not Black. She's a Jewish woman who had lighter skin. And so when she was giving me recommendations, I was like, oh, girl, this is not going to work. And so we went down this journey. And I think it was really important for me, the sunscreen angle aside. I do think everyone should be wearing sunscreen. But that aside, I do think it's important where at this day, with this innovation and this market size of the beauty industry, you should be able to find things that reflect you, and you should be able to find things that you find pleasure in. And something as simple as sunscreen should not be a barrier to use because you think that you're gonna look crazy after applying it. So that was kind of the road that I went on and the journey that led me here. And it's been incredible to meet and speak with so many Black women who are like, oh my gosh, my dermatologist had been telling me to switch to mineral for my hyperpigmentation, and now I can, and now I feel comfortable in doing it. So that's been exciting.
Yeah, clap. Because I have a follow-up question. Who uses sunscreen every day? Oh, yes. Yes, good job. Wow. And if you don't, you will, in your beauty bag, you have a sample of the mineral sunscreen. It's very important to apply a base layer when you put on your makeup. So thank you for making that accessible. Jamaya, so you joined e.l.f., right? It was a industry before you got there. And so... but you have made tremendous strides in retail, and so I wanted to see if you can tell us a little bit about that. And did you have Black beauty goals with that, you know, secretly?
Oh, no secrets.
Oh,
no secrets.
okay.
So yes, I have been, like I said earlier, I was been at e.l.f. for 8 years this year, which is crazy. I always tell people I used to be a baby e.l.f. and now I'm an OG e.l.f. So it's funny, but e.l.f., if you are a fan of e.l.f., you know that our tagline is we are for every eye, lip, and face. Some people don't even know that e.l.f. stands for eyes, lips, face. We found it funny that a few years back we were an answer on Jeopardy, and it was amazing. So keyword in that is not eyes, lips, face. It's every, right? We want to make sure we're accessible to everyone. As in my world, we want to make sure that you can find us at every retailer. Our CEO loves to say he doesn't care where you shop e.l.f. as long as you shop e.l.f. And it's my job, right, to make sure that you find us accessible in your Walmarts and your Targets and your Ultas and your Walgreens, right? One of the main things in our goals is to make sure we're accessible and there's inclusivity in all that we do. So that means you see some of our shades here of our Halo Glow Skin Tint, right? There's 30 shades, right? We want to make sure from the lightest, the palest person all the way to someone who's darker than me, they meet their shade needs, right? So when I got to e.l.f., one of the main things I always said was, I want to see myself, right? I want to see people who look like me. I also want to see people who don't look like me. I want to see women in hijabs. I want to see women who have lighter skin tones. I want to see women who can't find their shade range and they're looking for something. They feel like they have to go buy the most expensive product, but they don't, right? e.l.f. has premium product, but at get real prices. So it's my job to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our consumer, and we are a part of that consumerism, right? I like to tell people all the time, Black women are the most loyalist consumers, right? Once we find something that we enjoy, it's not just us purchasing it, it's our cousin, it's our auntie, it's our mother, it's our father. We have a product, and like, not to toot our own horn, but we have a Squeeze Me lip balm, and you would think it's just for women. My uncles love it, my nephew loves it. He has his football player friends also putting Squeeze Me lip balms in their football bags, right? So it's not just about meeting the consumer who other people think is beautiful, right? We want to make sure that we are also seen as beautiful. So if you see off our Instagram page, you'll see women that look like me, women that look like you, women that don't look like any of us, and it's important, right? Because we want to make sure that we are community-led brand, right? And so that was something that was major, important, and part of me when I came to e.l.f. was that if I'm going to be here, I'm just not going to sit here and say anything. I'm here, I'm going to shake the table, right? I'm not here for no reason. And that's important. So if you're there, I always tell people, if you're there and you're at the table, you're there for a reason. Use your voice. Even if it shakes, use your voice.
Thank you.
Okay, so Annie, question. You are a part of CREDO, how do you say it? CREDO. Okay, sorry. But you came into the business how long ago?
Oh God, 34 years ago.
Okay, and so my question is, have you seen a trend or a transition to how we engage darker skin tones, or how we reach different demographics? Like, what have you seen in the last 20 years that makes you like confident about beauty in the future?
So much has changed, and so much has changed in a short period of time. Since we started CREDO, 12 years ago, myself and my co-founder, Shashi Batra. Sadly, I lost him to cancer early on in our journey, but he and I were also very lucky to be part of the U.S. founding team of Sephora. And honestly, Sephora was a catalyst for what we started with CREDO. And unbelievably, like, the arc of inclusivity has been very interesting to watch, because I am, not to single you out, but you look like you're my age. I feel like you're my person. But like, we're pretty much the only ones that can tell you like maybe what that was like at Jasmine's dad, everyone. Good job, Dad. But back then, my experience as a very taught merchant, a little toddler that I was back then, was brand artistry developed brands like Makeup Forever that you could really welcome anyone into the store, sit them down, and have confidence that you would color match that person. And what we started with CREDO was like, we're super excited about what we had experienced at Sephora, where back in the day, Urban Decay, Hard Candy, Peter Thomas Roth, well, maybe not him, he's in the Epstein files, we'll think of someone else. But all those brands, those guys were the founders, the Franchescas of their era. And so we wanted to find them again, but we wanted to find them with pillars of their brand being inclusivity and transparency, and just being an open book to people today. People want to be empowered with information to make decisions. And so when we started CREDO, we're San Franciscans, born and raised here. San Francisco is a very progressive and innovative city, so it's very important we put our flag in the ground on Fillmore Street in Pacific Heights as our very first store. And I hung out in that store. I worked in that store for a solid year before we opened any other stores, so we could hear what people were saying. CREDO's never been on Jeopardy, but we were on Wordle. And the Wordle was, What's a cosmetic store that's clean beauty and also Latin for I believe? And that is CREDO. And CREDO, we believe that there was, lack of transparency in beauty products, an egregious oversight in regulation around ingredients, and just no one really putting their arms around innovation and progression in terms of sustainability. The big shortcoming when we started this business was the lack of inclusivity in terms of complexion shades. And I was like, whoa, like we've gone way backwards here. And just to give you guys an idea of what it takes to have a foundation brand today, the bare minimum I can get our supplier down to is 35,000 shades a run. So I can't give anyone a purchase order for foundation unless it's 35,000 units. And the lowest I can go, he says I can do 10 shades per 35,000. The lowest I can go per shade is 5,000. Okay, by the time we launched EXO, which is 43 shades, so you guys can do the math, we had about 9 stores. So 5,000 shades, let's say, of one, or 5,000 units of one shade is gonna last me like 150 years at that point. But we still made the investment, because for us, it was incredibly important that everyone that walked into our stores were in major cities. We have a very diverse sales team, was able to be color matched, and color match was something where I'm not like, oh, so sorry, I can't match you, but if you mix this, with that, and now it's $300, now we matched you. I mean, horrible experience. So I would say we're making progress. It is a real bottleneck on the supply chain, I would say, in terms of brands wanting to get there in terms of shade range and complexion. And that's the side I don't think anybody hears about, is the real issue.
So you touched on it a little bit, but can you be more specific about what clean beauty is?
Yeah.
So what is it not, and what is it?
Yeah, absolutely. We have, so when we first started CREDO, we were like, should we call it safe? Should we call it healthy? We're like, oh, that's not sexy. That's not fun. So we just came up with clean. Holy cow. If I had any idea the polarization this word would have today, I would probably rethink this, to be totally transparent. But for us, clean beauty is being very transparent about the safety, source, and sustainability about products, and ethically running a business. That's it. So I can't say that every single brand at CREDO gives equal weight to all of those things, but what it's about is a partnership and people like Franchesca that's like, hey, listen, I'm not here to cut corners. I'm not here to make a really killer sunscreen with all good for you ingredients, but then put it in virgin plastic. She's saying, I'm wanting to formulate, I want to think about the ingredients that are in here. I want to think about what they do to human health and potentially the environment's health when we're done and discarding these products. And then I want to think about how it's packaged. I want to think about how I pay the people on my team. We have a very strict no asshole rule at CREDO that applies to internal and external people. And it's like, just be a good human at the end of the day. But we do have a 35-page standard that all of our brands get and sign, and it covers anything from ingredients to labeling guidelines to testing. You guys, I think what shocks people every time I say this is any one of you right now can go home, get in your kitchen, mix something up, throw it on a shelf, and start selling it. What you put in it, what you test for, you might not test for anything, is anyone's guess. And so all we're saying is if you take our standard, which is 35 pages long, that a brand gets, that Franchesca signed, I'd say 85% of it is what a typical regulatory framework should look like in the United States of America, and it just does not exist. Yeah. So that's what we're saying with clean beauty.
Oh, yes. Deserves claps.
So come visit.
Yes, let's do that. I want to kind of wrap it up, and then we'll open it up to the audience for questions. But thinking about what you just said about packaging and delivery and making sure we're providing a good product, but also a good experience. And Jasmine, I want to start with you because I think you did an excellent job with that, with your practice and with this subject matter. And so I want to ask you, like, how did you know that these were the photos that needed to tell the story? Because I'm sure you took hundreds, right? And so the delivery was important in how the message came across. And so we talked about, the first photo, but then you have a few photos of Mel and I think her partner. And then you also had, I don't think it's here today, but you also brought in the CD player that was in the shop that has been playing for decades and now is part of the experience of your show. And so that's a part of the delivery that you have created for us. So can you tell us about that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, fictive kinship is something that's super important to my practice, which is basically like fancy language to describe relationships that feel like family, even though they're not like blood related. And so I feel like going back to what I was saying about collaborative based image making, I really wanted to sit down and talk with Mel and Rudy and the people I'd been through since the beginning and make sure that I wasn't just representing something that was important for me, but something that accurately represented them and who they were, and what their store really meant for people. And so if you can see, and maybe later you guys will have the opportunity to look more at the extended wall labels. I interviewed Mel and Rudy, and their stories are on the wall labels of some of the images. And Lisa Harrell, she was one of the long-term employees at Beauty Plus. She actually hand decoupaged the mannequins that you see here and hand adorned them. And I feel like that was really a symbol of her trying to make sure that these black, quote unquote, black forms that are very grayed out and have Eurocentric features semi-represented black beauty standards, and I tried to extend the work that she was doing and make sure that the mannequins felt like they had more chocolatey skin, even though there's still kind of a haunting nature to them because they're not entirely, quote unquote, black. And so I feel like for me, when I was trying to represent this story, I really wanted to make sure that the people that I was photographing were heavily involved. And I still talk to them today and have been sending them the papers and sent them my silk scarves and just wanting to make sure that they're involved in the entire process and that they also feel seen and appreciated in the way that I feel like they deserve.
Thank you. We can clap for that. Yes. And I want to extend that question to the rest of our panelists about delivery and how we're packaging our content or our products to reach communities or so forth and so on. And specifically, I'm thinking about e.l.f., Jamaya, and like retail. Like, what does that look like?
So packaging varies, right? So if we're going to be accessible, that means we need to be able to put it in a small purse, put it in your closet, in your makeup bag, right, in your bathroom. So some of our packaging has glass bottles, right, which is good for quality insurance, making sure that the product is clean, et cetera. We are 100% vegan, cruelty-free, right? But you'll also see small packaging that is like I said, Squeeze Me lip balm. It's little small squeezable lip balms that's smaller, right? So when it comes to packaging, it really varies on the product. And it varies on what is the use for it. And we are a community-driven innovation brand, so depending on what our community is asking for and wanting for, whether that means our CEO or our CFO is on TikTok Live and people are screaming in the chat about what they want next, that also goes into innovation, and then it also goes into packaging as well.
Yeah. And I'll say, in developing Good Weather, there was multiple steps that I took into consideration for what the final product would look like. One was the formulation and making sure that it met the 35-page guideline for CREDO standards so that we could get sold in CREDO, because that was, if we were going to say clean, we want it to be with the retailer who led that forward. So that was like a huge part of the process, and actually a pretty difficult part of the process when you're in the formulation room in sunscreen, and then to make sure that it worked across skin tones and kept it clean was like a pretty challenging but worth it journey for us, because what was the point of me doing it if I wasn't solving a larger problem? And then when it came to packaging, I think more so, oftentimes, Annie, I don't even know if you're going to agree with me, but I think that when people think of clean, they think of something that feels a little bit more crunchy or like a sacrifice. Like, I am sacrificing an experience to get something clean, and I did not want people to feel like they had to make that choice. So we were incredibly deliberate in making sure that the product felt like luxury, that the product felt cool, and that it measured up with any other type of makeup, skincare, fragrance that sat in your medicine cabinet. We didn't want to be the thing where you like hid it in your bottom drawer and then actually used it. And so that was part of the consideration. And then when it came to marketing and branding, I'm a brand girl. Like, marketing is my background. That was my strong suit. But then starting your own brand, you're like, oh, the dollars are short. Like, I can't do all of the things. And for me to be able to represent all of the skin tones, there are trade-offs that you have to make. Because if you can only afford 3 models, you're trying to switch it out. You're trying to get shade range. But let me tell you, there will never be a shoot where there's not a Black woman there, because holler, I got to cover it. But then you're trying to mix in all of the ranges and make sure that the brand and the photography represents a lifestyle and represents an amount of indulgence. So there's a lot of consideration where you can trust that it's clean based off of the partners that we work with and kind of the standards that we uphold, or we don't have to shout that it's clean. Hopefully you'll know by some of the signals that we're giving you, and like also the claims that we have and the partners that we work with. But then you are attracted to the brand experience because it feels indulgent, because it feels welcoming, and hopefully it feels reflective of you, which I think within the sunscreen space that now is popular, but like you don't often see it, you know?
Thank you. Annie, would you like to answer this one?
I would just say that I'm not Franchesca's personal hype woman, really. We really just work together. But I would just say I'm so happy to have Good Weather Skin at CREDO, because first of all, she came in and she literally started just killing it. Like, we just hit the ground running with Good Weather Skin. But I'm so happy to have the brand at CREDO, because I don't know if any of you guys remember, it was like fleeting, but we developed a sun care line with Venus Williams called e.l.f. You guys remember that? Because it was part of her apparel brand. By the way, most normal celebrity I've ever worked with. Like, normal, she'd just call from her car and be like, yeah, I love it, it's great. I'm still, processing the whole experience. It was awesome. But the SPF for that, as Franchesca noted, it's, you guys, painstaking work. It's painstaking work to get the formula, the cast, all of that perfectly right, and very, very, very hard to do. The only thing else I would say is to make brands more inclusive to people, it's about information and sharing information so you guys can make the choice about what you're buying. I think beauty is still inherently very opaque to everyone. And of course, then it's price. And so when we started at CREDO, I was in Pacific Heights. We're also on Hayes Street. We're in Williamsburg, but we're also in Bucktown. So, we want to be in neighborhoods where people are living their life, but we recognize these are very affluent neighborhoods. EXA, for me, was very important. It came in 25% less than anything else in the store, because here we are trying to serve everyone, and you can't do that when it's the top tier of price. So I think, I think we've got a long way to go. I think that I would love to see a CREDO in every community that we're in. That's the dream. But I think I'm very inspired by partners like Franchesca. This is what makes it all worth it.
Okay, so last question. Yeah, we can do that. So we can kind of tie off the local beauty supply versus, maybe major brands, chains, people or entities like Sephora and Ulta, and like how, there are products in some places but not others, and, what that's like for an outsider like moi. What is like the stance or the position you have to kind of contend with being in one place versus the other? Because like you were talking about access and, being in certain neighborhoods, the local beauty supply stores are usually in low income areas, and then you get to like Sally Beauty, and then you get to like, the Sephoras and the Ultas and things like that. So what are those discussions with your entities and your experiences with those?
I can start with saying that, last year we launched with just one product that then turned into two. And there was a lot of conversation around like, oh, well, big box retail is going to be hard for you because you only have one or two SKUs, which in my mind, I was like, well, that's fine because I want to be in the smaller shops. I want to be in the boutiques. We did end up launching with Nordstrom's as a partner, but Nordstrom's aside, the boutiques became in the spas and the individual owned stores that I'm going to assume, I haven't done the math, but I'd say 90% of them are women-owned boutiques, were the best advocates for what I was doing, for speaking to the products, for having community with people. So when people came in, their recommendation mattered, that carried weight. And that honestly has been the backbone of the growth of Good Weather, is finding partners where they believe so much in what they're doing that they are able to act as the best advocate for your brand and for your growth. I wish that there was more Black beauty stores and shops that we could even be available in. But the reality is they're so far and in between to even find those partners. And so instead, it's the estheticians, it's the spas, it's the local boutiques where they have the store, the clothes and the candles and all of that, where you see these like shops doing their best to compete against big box or even Amazon that's coming hot for the beauty industry, And so those have been our biggest partners in not just the community that they build, but also the advice and the knowledge that they have about the products that they carry in their stores. It's been incredible, and I feel really grateful for the journey that we've been in and being able to be in about 200 of those smaller boutiques and talk with those women and have their experience when women like, the Black beauty supply stores are disappearing at a rapid rate.
For sure. So e.l.f. is everywhere. Lack of words, right? So as I said earlier, you can find us at Target, you can find us at Walmart, you can find us at Ulta. But as a person who works within our retail department, I like to say, depending on where you shop, that's who you are, right? So our Ulta consumer is not our Target consumer, is not our Walmart consumer. If you are shopping e.l.f. at Walmart, you're also probably buying your groceries. If you're at Ulta, you're probably a beauty enthusiast. Like, you live and breathe beauty. You're not just there for e.l.f., you're probably there for other products. When it comes to where we are, as I said, we're everywhere, but a place that people didn't think we'd be, and I'm really excited about, is Dollar General. That's a shock when people hear that, right? They're like, what do you mean e.l.f. is at Dollar General? But if you think, of course, we're in California now. I have family in the Midwest where my mom is from. The store still closes at 6 p.m., right? So in those places, they shop at Dollar General. So if we want to be accessible to every eye, lip, and face, we have to be where our consumers are and where our community is. And so that means Dollar General is a no-brainer, right? We want people to have premium product, right, at a real rights price. That's Dollar General. So those are the places when I'm working with retailers that gets me really excited, because I feel like, yes, we're meeting our community, whether you're at an Ulta, right, and you're a beauty enthusiast, but maybe you're a beauty enthusiast, but you need to shop at Dollar General, and that's okay too. So.
Okay, thank you. We would like to ask a few questions. Right here in the blue.
Thank you so. Oh, it's okay. Okay, I'll pass it to you after. Okay. Thank you so much. This is such a great panel, and I'm Gen X too. I grew up on Ebony Fashion Fair, or at least my big sister did, and I was so fascinated by the statement about the trend away from inclusion. And so I'm wondering, like, what are the lessons that we can pull forward to your point of remembering our past from a brand like Ebony Fashion Fair, which was the brand that Black women in particular could turn to? So thank you again.
Well, I would say that it's a general statement, but I would say I don't believe there is a trend per se. I think my point in doing the napkin math was to share, I think there's two camps, right? There's the optics of a founder that everyone knows, the euphoria stuff, like that was crazy. And like someone very, in my mind, intentionally making very poor choices. Then there's the economic side of it, where I wish brands, if you don't have the cash, which is why I was sharing with you guys those metrics, is because if you don't have the cash to launch a fully inclusive brand for everyone, please don't do it. Please do not get in the complexion game, because the move has always been historically is, oh wait, I'm going to launch with 4 Caucasian shades, and then if I'm getting traction, then I'm going to start investing in others. Well, what are you telling people then? What are you saying? And so that's our counsel, is start with mascara then. Start with eyeshadow, mascara, lip oils, and start your traction there, because doing it the other way is just not acceptable. So I wouldn't say that it's a trend per se. I would say it's a deeply disappointing trend in clean beauty, and I'm hoping that it changes.
And you guys measure things differently, right?
With EXA? Mm-hmm. We did. I love that this is my own thing, finally. It's kind of fun. I can just do whatever I want. So with EXA, yes, we really wanted to kind of shift or challenge the Eurocentric standards of complexion. Like, why does it always start with the fairest shade as number 1? And that's the one that you see on the website, and then it goes all the way to deep. So we flipped that on its head and said, let's start with the deepest shade. That's our naming convention. Number 100 is Daquan. It's our deepest shade. Fun fact, every name of EXA is a person that was part of our shoot, and we shade match too. So every single name in EXA is a person. Sometimes we have mashups. Annika is Annie and Erica. But yeah, it was an incredibly personal mission for me to create this brand, and not easy to get. We have investors. I have people that fund CREDO, and it took me about 4 years to get this greenlit from those guys, but they did it, thankfully.
I think it should be a fun fact too that people should know you don't have to start with 1 as your primary shade. You can have your primary shade be all the way as your darkest shade, and that's number 1. So when people click on that product, that's the first face they see. Some people don't know that, but you don't have to do number 1.
So thank you. First, I wanted to thank you for your work over the years for inclusion and accessibility and affordability and safety of the products, because that's important, that the things we put on our body are healthy. And I am someone who was quite ignorant walking into here today. I did not know that e.l.f. stood for eyes, lips, and face. I guess I must watch more Jeopardy. So I am a baby boomer, so I think I might be the elder in the room here, but if anyone beats 71, let me know. I grew up... So I grew up in New York City, and last month a film called Black is Beautiful, the Kwame Braithwaite story, screened for the first time at the San Francisco Film Festival, and I was in the audience. And that's a story about a photojournalist, Kwame Braithwaite, who practiced in New York, mainly in Harlem in the 1960s. And he founded a group called the Grandessa Models, which were black women who were not models, but they were just everyday women from the neighborhood who modeled, and they wore no makeup, and their hair was natural. And so that's where the expression "Black is beautiful" comes from, if anyone is curious about that. There's a book downstairs that is about the film. So I guess my question is now, being a recovering baby boomer who also couldn't find any foundation that matched my skin, so for many years I didn't wear any foundation ever, right? I mean, and, use sunscreen maybe. And so... Well, so now, black don't crack, but, that's just... But anyway, I just wonder how you integrate the movement towards natural beauty, back to natural beauty and natural products with using the products that your company offers, and how we can integrate our lifestyles if they're more natural oriented. And maybe a recovering hippie has a lot of thoughts about that.
Yes, I would say what I love about the brand ecosystem of CREDO is that most of the brands are skincare makeup combos, where it's like, really, this is like feeding my skin versus covering up my face as a mask. And I think most of the founders that I have an outward mission statement of why they created their color cosmetic brand is typically that same narrative, which is like, let's not cover up anyone's face. Let's just use products that naturally enhance it with products that are actually good for your skin. And so I could nerd out and talk about plants all day long and how plants are, so beneficial to feeding your skin and making your skin healthy. And so, my dad's looking up from there, being really proud of me right now. But yeah, it's been pretty rewarding.
Hello, beautiful people. Hi. I'm so happy to be with you all today. Congratulations, Jasmine. I love and adore you, and I'm so proud of you and all the amazing women here. Thank you so much. My name is Carice Williams, and Annie, I would love to hear your perspective on the Pact Collective, and I would love to hear also, too, as a beauty brand founder, I care a lot about how people look and how people feel, but more about the ingredients that go into your body. As a performer, a lot of cosmetics lines are not really rooted to the health of dancers. So that's where I come in to save the day, to make sure that athletes, performers really have access to health equity. So I would love to hear how that shows up at e.l.f., how that shows up at Good Weather Skin, how that shows up in CREDO, and just what do you think about that, and like any thoughts or insights there?
Yeah, as a brand that's 100% vegan, cruelty-free, it's so important to us to make sure that we have a free of statement where we say all the things we're free of, a lot of the things you can't pronounce, right? But it's important to us, but not just for e.l.f., but we have a brand called Well People that is our clean beauty brand, right? They started off in CREDO. We were talking about our team that used to work with them previously. But it is important to meet where the consumer is, right? And it shouldn't miss quality over goodness of the product, right? So Well People has amazing mascara that is clean, vegan, cruelty-free, is free of all the nasty stuff that you don't want in your body, but it's amazing mascara that we love, right? So that's important, and you're talking about sports, right? We just partnered with Flage Johnson, so we want to make sure that we have not only our sports athletes who can use our products and use them on the court, right, but making sure that everyday people can use it too.
Yeah, and I'll say that, we also did a lot of work to make sure that we used clean ingredients and starting from scratch in formulation, which, me being new to the beauty industry, I realized like how big of a deal that was to create your own formulation. I think that being a little bit naive and a little bit angry always helps in wanting to create something new. But, there's a lot of learning along the way not with these ladies here to my left and my right, but there's a lot of things that happen within the beauty industry where essentially people are just taking a bunch of product formulations that already exist and just tweak a little bit, and then they remarket it as a whole new product. So a lot of the things that you see on the shelves are just like dupes of each other, and the dupe becomes so unrecognizable from its original source. And so when we developed Good Weather, we really wanted to start from scratch and be like, what are the ingredients that matter? What actually holds a standard? And how do we hold the line on something that's clean and feels good? That then goes into packaging as well, of making sure we were using glass packaging with our first product line that launched last year. This year, because we now have an SPF 50 for face and body, we can speak to athletes more in a more specific way, because it's SPF 50 and it's also meant for your whole body, but that does come in plastic. But that was a whole other journey of what is a good plastic? What is the like all of the things to make sure that we were doing it right. But I too, Annie, am interested in hearing more about your PACT program.
Okay, I'll make it quick. So myself, so CREDO, and do you guys know the brand MoAD Beauty? So created by a makeup artist. He's the original founding team of MAC. And then do you remember the brand Cover FX? Yes. Okay, Vic Casale, he's the mastermind behind these brands. So he and I decided we have a real plastic problem. As beauty industry stakeholders, we all made a big old mess out there, creating hundreds of millions of units of packaging every year in beauty. and decided a pre-competitive move would be to start a nonprofit called Pact Collective. So we have bins at CREDO, but we also have bins in 3,200 outlets out there. So Ulta, Sephora, Nordstrom, you name it. It's out there. So you guys can take your beauty products in. We'll have a little chit chat about what that plastic resin code is underneath, so then you'll know what you can put in your blue can and what you can't. But the word of thumb, guys, and I know I'm a mom, so I get to be a bit like lectury and finger waggy, so I'll try not to be that way. But you can really geek out on your local municipality's recycling website and really read it. Take the time, 5 minutes. They're usually pretty good about what can go in your blue can and what can't. Clean your stuff out. Bring it to CREDO. If you bring it to CREDO, we'll give you loyalty points. You can turn in for cash. So, and it can be anything. Any beauty product, Kerastase, we don't care. It doesn't matter. And so that was really the gist was we hope that Pact goes out of business in my lifetime. Never going to happen, but we're sure going to try. But it's our way of trying to clean up the packaging mess that we've made out there.
All right, one more question. Okay.
Thank you. So first off, I want to congratulate Jasmine on this wonderful exhibition today. And my question is around how do you ensure that you can maintain your mission? Recently, we heard that Everlane joined with Shein. And we know that there's this competition out there around fast fashion. And again, to all the things that you spoke about today around clean beauty and sticking to your credo, so to speak. How do you ensure that you can maintain that mission given what's going on today from a market standpoint?
From an e.l.f. perspective, I would say it's a part of our mission statement, right? We stand for every eye, lip, and face, right? But we want to make sure we are bold disruptors with a kind heart, and that's a part of who e.l.f. is. So when DEI you saw companies starting to stop their DEI programs, our CEO was very much on TV like, why would we stop doing something that is a part of our mission and who we are? So it's a part of the formation of who e.l.f. is and who it continues to be. So when it's a DNA inside of your brand, you don't have to try to stop or do things that you shouldn't be doing because it's a part of who your brand is. Whether that means 100% vegan, cruelty-free product, whether that means we are in fair trade factories around the world, so our D2Cs, you will make sure that there's ethical boundaries that's happening where our products are being made. Like, we are one of the first beauty brands to be fair trade certified, which is an amazing thing, right? So it's important to us, and it's a part of who we are. It's a part of our purpose-driven, our results-driven community, and we want to make sure that our community knows that. And we don't call our consumers, we call them elfies, right? They're a part of the brand. So when they hear things or see things, they're very vocal about it because of who they feel we are and the community that we've built.
This one is actually one that I will speak on. It's one that I've been avoiding because I am an Everlaner. So I led the marketing team at Everlane for 2.5 years. And I have to say that that company was very good at all of the things that it promised the consumer it was going to be good at, with supply chain, with sustainability, with the quality, with the products. And I think that, separately outside of that, I think that they did do a great job of changing so much of what we think about for transparency and holding companies responsible. And so the news is sad and the news is incredibly heartbreaking, and the turn that took and kind of the future of a lot of brands, direct to consumer particularly, that were of that cohort and kind of the paths that they've all gone down. But when I think about the brand that I've built now alongside another Everlaner, we actually hold a lot of that into the DNA of what we've built, of how do you actually go very deep on a supply chain and understand every step of the way of what's happening with your product. And if you can't get it perfect the first time, how do you begin to modify with each run and each production? So we're always switching out partners, trying to get better and better and better with each time. And I think that is the commitment as a small brand that I can make and kind of hold the line of there is no point of me having this company if I'm going to do it the wrong way. If you want the wrong way, there's plenty of sunscreens on the shelf that you can go after. So how do I continually keep pushing and trying to make it better with every single product, even though there are headwinds when it comes to supply chain availability and kind of innovation that's happening in market, and just infrastructure and FDA regulation and all of the things that are happening on that side as well.
I think the only thing I can add to that is I think you have to be careful who you take money from, because I think that we spend a lot of time. We have 130 brands at CREDO. That means that there's 130 founders out there. I would say 90% of them are still privately owned. So it's the founder bootstrapping the brand, trying to make it work. But do they want to bootstrap it forever? Probably not. They want to get scale. So we spend a lot of time talking about be careful who you get money from, because it's, of course, it would be so exciting, right, to get money from someone and be able to roll into Sephora, because now you've got capital to invest in inventory and go forward. But then when those people come calling and they're like, we want to sell you now, and we don't give a shit who we're going to sell to. We could sell to Amazon. We could sell to some crazy private equity. We could sell to someone that's mission aligned with you, and that would be amazing. And I think that's the hard part. I mean, when we read this Everlane news, first thing I said to Franchesca, I mean, we all, like, I think I could hear everyone's collective, like, ugh, like, why? What was the point of all of that? And so I think, for us, I feel, I'll be honest, like, our backers are an evergreen fund. So by nature, I have no exit. My exit is a 100-year journey together. In essence, is like we're just building something to build something. But what came with that was people with no beauty and no retail experience. So has it been painful? Absolutely. And if you're here, I'm so sorry, but it really has been painful. But there's trade-offs to everything. But I think that's what we saw there was investors came calling, I want my money, and I'm just going to sell it to whoever will buy it. And it's really sad.
Thank you. We'll have to end here. We're a little over time, but I want to thank everyone for showing up today. I want to especially thank Jasmine for her efforts in understanding beauty and documentation and her commitment to her practice. And I want you to have the last word. So what do you want to tell us? What's happening today? What's next for you? All the things. Go.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank everyone for coming. It's kind of crazy to see how many people made their way out here in the audience. But today, this program will be followed by e.l.f. Cosmetics shade matching and color correcting. So please stay around, and it'll be happening until 4 p.m. What's next for me is that I recently transitioned out of my day job so that I can fully pursue being an artist. And I will be going to New Orleans this summer to go document my great aunt, who is 91 and has been a really large matriarch on my mom's dad's side of the family, and my grandpa will also be coming. And so I'm really looking forward to that, and then also doing a project in Atlanta on Black land preservation in August. So lots more to come, but super grateful for you guys and that you guys are able to make it out here today.
Thank you, Jasmine.